everybody to the first installation of GerritMeets. This is, as I said, the first installation. We'll try and run these like on a semi-regular basis, probably every month, probably every 6 weeks, whatever works. It's our idea of bringing the community back together after COVID in the Bay Area. So we're obviously looking for talks. So if people want to submit talks, more than welcome. Reach out on the mailing list to me or Tony, wherever. We're on Discord, everywhere. We're also looking for people to host. So if you guys want to host the next one, you're more than welcome. Help support the community, always welcome. And then just quickly, a few words on GerritForge. We're a Gerrit-based company, I'm going to say. We do Gerrit support and Gerrit consultancy, so you know where to find us. Also, we're hiring, so if anybody's interested out there, you know where to find me. Alright, so let's get started. Gerrit plugins. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about how do we write a scripting plugin. I'm also going to touch on a bunch of other subjects. I would have a lot of questions if I was seeing this talk, so please ask them. We're going to try and stay within 20 minutes, but then Tony has a lot to talk about as well. So yeah, let's get going. Oh, if I click on it, it probably works better. Plugins are the heart of Gerrit. So since the very beginning, and I think this was one of Lucas's major contributions to the Gerrit ecosystem, we've always tried to have these plugins which basically provide you as a kind of isolated way of adding your own functionality to Gerrit without having to go through the, let's say, pain of creating or adding new functionality into the Gerrit core, which is much lengthier process, much lengthier review process, and just takes longer in general. While with plugins, it allows you to do something smaller. It can be it doesn't need to be open source. It can just be within your company. You plug it in, it works, and that's you done, right? Gerrit is extremely extensible. I just thought I'd add two things that, for example, when I started working in Gerrit and realized and I found interesting. Gerrit, as we know, is a code review tool, not a code browsing tool. So when you guys go here and click on browse, that's not actually a core functionality of Gerrit. It's provided by the GitOS plugin. So if you remove the GitOS jar from the plugins folder, that button disappears. And another one that maybe should be even more, the download command plugin. So if you don't have the download command jar in your plugins folder, this doesn't even show up, right? And like the handy hook that gives you here to create a change ID, you have to sort that out by yourself. So that's just examples of what's happening. So the main differences here are plugin versus lib modules. All right. So one thing is a plugin and one thing is a lib. Okay. They live in two different folders. One is under /lib, one is under /plugin. Everything is loaded by the core class loader. We just started. No worries. Privacy. No worries. Everything in lib is loaded by the core class loader. So it's much more integrated with the core of Gerrit, and that's the main differences between the two. So a lib is going to be able to interact a lot more with the low level of like the Gerrit machinery, while plugins are quite isolated in what they can do. Libs cannot be reloaded, so if you put a lib in, so if you put a new jar in the lib folder, you need to restart Gerrit. Gerrit is not going to automatically pick it up. And the main modules that you can provide or you can interfere with, let's say, is the batch module. That's what it's called. So if you need to change something in the init phase, that's where you would plug in and be able to do that. If you need to interact with the DB layer, then there's a DB module. We do that, for example, for the multi-site plugin, if you guys know that, where we need to do some operations just before Gerrit is about to write the commit to disk. So we interact with the DB layer and are able to do that. There is then the index module. So if you want to change the indexing plugin that Gerrit uses from Lucene to Elasticsearch, you can do that. You plug in there, and that's how you can do it. And then finally, there's a more generic module which allows you to bring in new objects in scope. We use that for cache chronicle map. So if you want to not use the H2 caches but the cache chronicle map caches, that's where we plug in. That's where we hook in. Plugins instead are like placed in the plugin directory. They're loaded by the plugin loader, which is a more isolated loader, which means that plugins cannot see each other. So got pieces. Sorry guys at home. So we've got the plugins cannot talk with each other. So if you've got a plugin, two separate plugins, they cannot see each other's classes until 3.9, where Tony himself provided the cross plugin functionality that you can ask him more about.
Luca,
all right. Okay. So that's quite handy. That allows you to, each plugin can expose an interface that other plugins can interject. That's handy, for example, if you want to have a health check plugin, and then I don't know, there's a different plugin, I'm going to call it purification, whatever, that wants to add what it means to be healthy for Gerrit. It can implement the interface from the health check plugin and just add to the overall healthiness definition of the node. And then plugins can be reloaded. So if you change the jar of a plugin in a node, it's going to be reloaded. One trick that we've read from in the past, there's also a command, a SSH command that you can disable plugins with, and you can re-enable them. But if you start Gerrit and a plugin is disabled, you won't be able to reload it from the SSH command. This is just a note. Plugins info. So this can be a bit of a confusing world, all right? There's lots of plugins out there. Where do I find them? How do I know which are maintained? How do I know? What do I know what's going on? We in the community provide this plugin matrix. This is a bit of an old screenshot, sorry guys. This only supports the live versions. So today this would read 263738 and master, of course. Don't take this as gospel. This is just a best effort basis of providing users with a clue of, with a clue of what plugins are doing. This will show all the plugins in the in the code review. So if you go in, is it review? No, Google source. Under plugins and under plugins, this will list everything that is all the repos in there and tell you what's the state of it. The maintainers is taken from the ACL on the repo. So yeah, you can see what's happening. Where can I find the plugin jars? So there's a few options here. There's a plugin called Plugin Manager that you can. I think it's a core plugin, so that's installed automatically when you install Gerrit. If you use the install plugins options. What that does is it provides you like a link, like in the banner, it's an extra option, you can click on it. It will tell you if there's any new versions of plugins that you have loaded, and provide you a link to download them directly. And they will be downloaded directly into the plugins folder. Now, I would not recommend using this in production because it allows anybody to change the plugins. So yeah, that's there. I wouldn't use it in production. There's the GerritForge CI, which provides all the plugins for, we build all the plugins for all the non-end-of-life versions, so for all the live versions. So all the plugins that are maintained are going to be there. And then the end-of-life versions, so plugins for 3.4, 3.5, 3.3, and all of it, and before then, are in the archive CI. Now, there's a trick here. So, because a version is end of life doesn't mean there's no more updated. For example, 3.5 has seen a lot of updates since the last release version. The archive CI is not going to build that. So if you're downloading something from the archive CI, that's going to be built to the latest version. So it will be on the 3.5.6 tag on the stable 3.5 branch. All right. So if you want to build something off the tip of 3.5, you're going to have to do that by yourself. You need to download it and rebuild the plugin. What language can I write them in? That's another interesting question. So there's obviously some already supported language, Java. You can just plug your jar in there. We can have some Groovy scripts, which is what we're gonna see today. But to do that, you need to load a Groovy provider plugin. And that is basically all that does is something that compiles the Groovy code and allows you to load the classes in memory. There's also a Scala compiler plugin, a provider plugin, which does the same thing, so you can run your plugin in Scala and then that's going to start comparing. JavaScript plugin, you were mentioning you've been doing some front-end work, so we might talk a little bit about that later if we have time, but JavaScript, the front-end can change, so I always try to stick to JavaScript in its purest form, let's say, because they have changed the framework that they use for the front end in the past, and then you have to rewrite your plugin from the beginning. And then essentially bring your own provider. So you can add new providers. If you want to write a Kotlin provider, you can do that, and you'll be able to write plugins in Kotlin, for example. What can plugins do? A lot. I don't know it all, and we wouldn't be able to cover it today. So you can listen to events. So for example, ref updated, comments added. If you need to vet some comments, I don't know, you want to make sure that nobody is writing naughty words in your comments, you can do that. You can register new SSH commands, which is what we're going to show in a second. You can register new metrics. Obviously, plugins do things, so you might want to have metrics for it. For example, purification, multi-site, or expose new metrics. And also you can have, for example, custom pre-submit validations. So if you want to have a validation rule for, I don't know, you need to have a link to a ticket when you create a change in the commit message, then that's where you would plug in, right? A personal niche favorite, something I didn't know you could do, is you can have external included in tags. So I don't know if any of you guys has ever seen the included in section. You can plug in extra tags. Like, I don't know, if you've got your external build system and you've got some stuff, I don't know, some tags, let's say, that you create that Gerrit wouldn't know about, you can plug that in, and then that could be handy for some developers to know which field of your code that commit was included in. There's much more, there's a whole set of documentation, we're not going to be able to cover it all today, but here we go. How do you deploy them? I already touched on this, so you can simply drop the jar file in the plugins folder. There's a configurable reload interval, by default is 1 minute. But it's plugins.check frequency, and you can set that to whatever you want. You don't need to restart Gerrit, as we said. Now, plugins may or may not have their own configuration, and it may or may not be in the Gerrit config or in a separate config file, depending on how complicated it is. Really, there's no, you need to see each plugin can do its own thing. There's no uniform there. So let's have a quick demo. Well, maybe not so quick, but where am I? Here. All right. So this is something I wrote quickly in 5 minutes. Maybe it took a bit longer than 5 minutes. But it's our user edictor 1.0 Groovy. Now the name of the file is important because for Groovy scripts, Gerrit will use the 1.0. So after the last item, it will take that as the version of your plugin. All right. While I've got a section on it later, but for jar file, it's going to be whatever is in the manifest, which is something specific, but we'll talk about it later. So today, the example I picked is how to evict users from the accounts cache. So you probably know that you can flush users from the cache. You can flush users from the cache, but you can't. There's not really a command out there today that allows you to flush a individual entry from the cache. Alright? Cool. So let's look at how we write this plugin. So we've got the export label, the export annotation here, which gives the name to the plugin. And then you can use this requires capability annotation if you need to require some special administration rights to run this plugin. So this ensures that only the admin can run this command, right? You don't want anyone to be able to come along and flush your users from the cache, right? So obviously we're extending SSH command, so that allows us to plug in, to add a new SSH command. This is a lot of boilerplate. I didn't want to go into the details too much, but this is going to be interesting about the accounts details cache. So for example, if you wanted to plug something into a different cache, how do you know, where do you get this line of code, basically? How do you know how to bind the right cache? So what you do is, this is always going to be the cache name, and then you search for that in Gerrit. So you can see there, you look for something, for a file that resembles a cache implementation. So account cache imp sounds like a cache implementation to me. You come here, and then you've got this by ID and ref name. And if you look at the usages of this, you want the name tag, and then here you go. This is how you bind your account cache. into your own code, right? I can't use this because it's private, so the best I can do is use the value. So here we go, named accounts, and now we'll put in accounts cache. Because of implementation details that we'll see in a second, I need the repo manager and I need the all users repo. And then here we go, argument. So here we define what arguments our script is going to take. So we've got index 0, the usage of it, you can define it that way. The meta var, if my mom is watching, please apologies. I didn't start the sentence with a capital letter, I'm sorry. The meta var, then yeah, this says what the name of the variable is, and obviously you're saying that's required, okay, because well, we're going to have a flash otherwise. So now we define the run method. So we've got some print lines. This is more like for us debugging. We get the all users repository. This obviously is specific to this implementation, but just to walk over it. We have our all users. We open the repositories. We get the account ID. Yes, we are doing the get. It's not production code. Then you get the user ref. So this is because of how the cache works. We need the user ref to determine the key of the user. So the accounts cache works in a way where the key for the cache is the account ID and then the SHA-1 of the latest commit on that user's ref. I'll show you that in a second. But what that means is that if that user gets updated, that's going to create a new entry in the cache, and that ensures that you're always looking at the right ACLs for the users, because you're not going to be looking at a stale entry for that cache. So this gives us a way of getting the accounts, the cache key, and then the account details cache. We get the item. We say that we found the user. We validate it, and then we print the new cache count. If something goes wrong, new user not found. All right. So what we do here is now I'm on the old users repo. So I'm going to go back up to the plugins directory. If I do an ls, you can see that I have got my Groovy provider jar, without which this wouldn't work. And then I have got my meetup user evicted Groovy. And then if we look at here, you can see plugins, check frequency 5 seconds. So whenever I update the plugin, this is going to reload every 5 seconds. Now we're not going to be messing about too much with it right now, but this is handy to know. Right. So now if I go back, I don't need to do anything. So now I've got this plugin installed. I don't know how to use it. So what do we do? Correct me if I do anything stupid. So we're going to try with the admin user. First, let's do a show of the caches. So we want to see what our cache situation is like. Host, Gerrit, show. Sorry, yeah. You'd expect to know how to spell that. Alright, so here we go. Accounts cache has got 6 entries. Now, that's because I've done a few tests yesterday. I've got a few users. I'm gonna now add a new user. Oops, that's the demo. I'm gonna go here. I want to sign in. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new account and I'm gonna show you what the repo looks like after that. So I don't know, meetup demo, username meetup demo. So we're gonna save that. Space. Yeah, I can't have a space there. Sorry. Whoa. I managed to break it. Okay, great. Sign out. Let's re-sign in. New account. I'm just gonna go with test. Yeah. Okay, so that worked. So if I do another show caches, now I've got 12 entries. Whoa, what happened here? Alright, so what's happened here is if we go and look, as I mentioned earlier, if we go and look in the all users repo, so if we go in Git, if I go in all users, yeah, do a git show ref, it's created quite a few users, right? Now let's take the last one. This is the one I created. So these three I created yesterday for my own testing, and this is the one I created incorrectly apparently, and then this is the one I created last, right? So if we do a git log of that, see, for every user I create, it has created an entry in the cache for each commit for that user. So when it created the account, it added an entry in the cache, then it said the full name, created another entry in the cache, then it said the username, another entry in the cache. So each user there has 3 entries, apart from the one I deleted yesterday for myself. So now let's say that I wanna run, I wanna validate user, the last one I did. So I don't know how this command works. So what do I do? Gerrit plugins ls. This is going to give you a list of my plugins. Not plugin ls. So this is going to give me a list of plugins that I've got. Can't really read, but you can see the meetup provider, user evictor. So you would take that, and so they're not running the Gerrit namespace. So you would do meetup user evictor max help. Damn it! Can't see. But let me exit full screen. How am I doing for time? My God, okay. So you can see here that it's got a command called evict user. So we're going to do that. Evict user minus help. You see there. Sorry. Okay, so we can pass the user ID. I'm now going to go back and copy this user ID. Oops. Right, so we're saying now I have 12 entries in the cache. I found the user, and I've evicted it, and I've got 11 entries. So if you do a show caches, let's find it here. There's now 11 entries in that cache. So that's a plugin in there, worked.
So you provide the plugin name and then the command, not Gerrit and then the command?
No, the plugins I wrote outside of the Gerrit scope. Alright. Yeah, that's pretty much it. How am I doing? I'm running over.
Just wrap up.
Okay, so wrap up real quick. Where am I? If I go back in presentation, slideshow, if you've got any questions, come and grab me. So front-end plugins, mentioned this before, you can edit functionality from the UI. There's some examples that tells you where you can plug in. You can't plug in anywhere. It's really annoying that you can't provide your own CSS classes. You can only edit CSS variables. So if you want to do, you can't really do too much fancy stuff. You need a prime and use. And it can change considerably between versions. Versioning, I said I was going to touch on this. So the version of the plugin is always the output of this grid described minus always head. That's going to give you a version that's usually, well, it should be the latest tag on that branch, followed by the amount of commits since that tag, followed by the unique identifier of the SHA-1 of the commit. So it's going to look something like 3.5.6-22- Right? Unless it's exactly on 3.5.6, in which case I just put that out. There is no universal way of versioning plugins. It's very much left to the guys developing the plugin. So if anybody, there's active conversations on how to unify this. So if anybody has a solution, please reach out on the mailing list. Remember to, one of the important things is plugins don't necessarily have a branch for each Gerrit branch. So if I write a simple plugin and that's compatible with most versions of Gerrit, I'm not going to bother creating a different branch for each version of Gerrit. But say that it breaks between 3.8 and 3.9, then I need to branch my plugin at 3.8 and then create a new 3.9 version. Obviously, if you're contributing to an older version, you need to do the merge up. So if you contribute to 3.6, you need to merge up. Well, you should merge up into 3.7, 3.8, 3.9. And that's why we don't do needless branches. We try and keep it quite simple. Building plugins. Okay, this is a whole other topic. We don't really have enough time for this, but it's just a small note on this. It's best to always check out the actual tag that you're going to go and deploy. So if you are deploying the latest version, so if you're deploying Gerrit 3.5.6, when you're building your plugin, remember to check out Gerrit 3.5.6 rather than the latest 7.3.5 branch, because there could be changes. Then we could open up another topic here. But any questions? I'm going to try and answer one or two if there's any. Otherwise, Tony is on.
We have plenty of questions on Slido. So
you want to pick your favorite and then you go and...
My favorite?
Yes.
How many people are at the GerritMeets lunch and learn today? This is my favorite.
What have you actually?
Okay, so let's see. Does autocomplete work in IntelliJ when deploying Groovy plugins for Gerrit?
Good question. You can browse the code from, well, we can try it. Probably not. Tony, what do you think?
I think it does, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. But is it going to autocomplete this?
Yeah, not there.
Not there.
But,
okay.
Yeah, if you use any, yeah.
Okay, here, yes, but if you...
Yeah, autocomplete works.
Okay, autocomplete here, yes, because I've already defined the variable, but... yes, okay, so it does give you the method, yes, that yes.
Okay, maybe another quick one. Interesting. So, hooks are another way of extending Gerrit. Do you recommend to use plugins over hooks?
Hooks for the front end? I'm not sure if I know enough to answer this one actually.
So I think it's a good. I don't know if anyone here asked this question, but it's a good question. So yeah, you can extend hooks. You can extend Gerrit with hooks because you can trigger some custom behavior based on some event that happen. I think the usage of one approach compared to the plugins, it really depends on the nature of the activity that you want to use.
Yeah.
You have to remember that when you use a hook, you can perform maybe activity on a third-party system, right? So you can actually go outside the boundaries of Gerrit. You can also do something related to Gerrit, but at that point you kind of lose all the goodies that Gerrit does, because by accessing from the outside, you're not going to be able to maybe leverage some of the internal caches that Gerrit has warmed up for you, and because you're not going to have the same scope as the code that is programmatically accessing those resources internally. So using a hook, usually you will lose in performance if you're running on Gerrit because you're accessing Gerrit from the outside, but it kind of makes sense if you're performing something on third party.
Yeah.
All right. To add to that, so you mentioned that some plugins you can implement hooks, right?
Yeah.
So is it one or the other, or can you do both? The server-side hooks and a plugin to do some.
Yeah. So the question is, is either or you can actually use plugins and hooks at the same time. Yeah, you can use them together.
So they both fire.
You can get both of them fired, absolutely. Yeah. Anything can listen to any event in Gerrit. You can fully customize exactly how you want to behave.